Hey, Valentino. I've been thinking a lot lately about improving my English speaking skills. I understand grammar pretty well, but when it comes to actually speaking, I freeze up. Do you have any ideas on how I can work on that?
Oh, Raj, I totally understand what you mean. I used to feel the same way. It's common, especially if you don't get enough speaking practice. But don't worry, there are definitely ways to improve day by day. Have you been doing anything specific to work on your speaking skills so far?
Well, I try to listen to English podcasts and watch movies in English, but I'm not sure if it's helping my speaking ability. I understand more vocabulary, but when it's time to speak, I just can't put my thoughts into words quickly.
You know, that's actually a great start. Listening to podcasts and watching movies helps build your vocabulary and pronunciation. But the key to improving your speaking is to actively use what you learn. I think you just need to create more opportunities to speak in English.
I agree. But how do I practice if I don't have many English-speaking friends around? I don't get to use English in my daily life very often.
That's a good point. If you don't have native speakers to talk to, it can be tricky, but there are still ways to practice. For example, you can join online language exchange groups where people want to practice speaking English. You could also find a speaking partner, maybe someone who's learning your native language, so you can help each other.
That's a good idea. I've heard about those language exchange apps before, but I wasn't sure if they'd be helpful.
Oh, they can be. There are apps like Tandem or HelloTalk that connect you with people who want to practice languages. You can chat through text or even have voice and video calls. And the great thing is, it's a real conversation, so you're practicing in a more natural way.
I like that idea. Having real conversations would definitely help me get more comfortable speaking. But what if I'm too nervous to speak to someone online?
It's normal to feel nervous at first, but you just have to take small steps. Start with short conversations and don't put too much pressure on yourself to speak perfectly. The point is to practice, make mistakes, and learn from them. If you're worried about making mistakes, you can explain to your partner that you're learning, and they'll be more patient.
That's reassuring. So should I just focus on having conversations? Or are there other things I can do to improve speaking?
Conversations are great, but there's more you can do. One thing I've found really helpful is to practice speaking out loud by myself. You can talk about your day, explain something to yourself, or even describe what you're doing. It might sound silly, but it helps you get used to speaking in English without the pressure of someone listening.
That makes sense. I guess it's like thinking in English, but out loud. It could help me become more fluent when forming sentences.
Exactly. And another technique I've used is shadowing. You listen to someone speaking in English and try to repeat what they're saying in real time. It helps with pronunciation and getting used to the natural rhythm of English. You can do this with podcasts, audiobooks, or even YouTube videos.
Shadowing sounds like a good exercise, but isn't it difficult to keep up with native speakers?
It can be challenging at first, but you don't have to speak at the same speed. Start with slower speech, and as you get better, you can try faster speakers. The important thing is to imitate how they pronounce words and structure their sentences. Over time, you'll notice your speaking gets smoother.
I think I'll give that a try. But what about expanding my vocabulary? Sometimes I feel like I don't know enough words to express myself clearly.
That's a great point. Expanding your vocabulary is important for speaking, but remember, it's not just about learning fancy or complicated words. Focus on learning the words and phrases you'll actually use in conversations. You can create a personal vocabulary list and practice using those words in sentences.
How can I practice using new words without forgetting them?
One way is to use them in real contexts as much as possible. Let's say you've learned 5 new words this week. Try to incorporate those words into your daily conversations or when you're talking out loud to yourself. You can also use flashcards or apps like Anki to help you review them regularly.
I see. I guess it's about being consistent and reviewing often. Speaking of consistency, how often should I practice speaking in English? Is daily practice necessary?
Daily practice is ideal, but even if you can't speak every single day, try to practice as often as possible. The more you expose yourself to the language, the faster you'll improve. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day can make a big difference over time.
That's good to know. I'll aim for daily practice, even if it's just for a short time. Do you have any other tips to stay motivated? Sometimes I get frustrated when I don't see improvement right away.
That's totally normal. Learning a language is a gradual process, and progress can be slow at times, but you have to be patient with yourself. One thing that helps with motivation is setting small, achievable goals. For example, aim to learn 10 new words this week or have a 5-minute conversation in English. As you reach these smaller goals, you'll feel more encouraged.
Yeah, I think I need to set smaller goals. Sometimes I feel like I need to be fluent right away, which is unrealistic.
Exactly. Fluency takes time, but every small step you take gets you closer. Also, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone learns at their own pace. Focus on your own progress.
Good point. So let's say I start practicing regularly. How do I measure my progress over time?
Great question. One way to track your progress is by recording yourself speaking. You can record a short monologue or conversation and listen to it later. Over time, you'll be able to hear the improvement in your pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. It's also a good idea to keep a language journal where you write about your practice sessions and note any new words or phrases you've learned.
I like that idea. Recording myself will help me notice areas that need improvement. And a language journal sounds like a good way to stay organized and motivated.
Absolutely. Plus, when you look back at your recordings or journal entries after a few months, you'll be surprised by how much progress you've made.
I hope so. One last thing. What should I do if I don't understand something during a conversation? Sometimes when people speak too fast, I lose track and feel embarrassed to ask them to repeat.
Oh, that happens to everyone. Don't be embarrassed. It's completely fine to ask someone to slow down or repeat what they said. You can say something like, "I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?" Or, "Can you speak a little slower?" Most people will be understanding and happy to help. It's better to ask than to pretend you understood.
You're right. I guess I just need to get comfortable with the idea of making mistakes and asking for clarification.
Yes, making mistakes is part of the learning process, so don't be afraid of it. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. And remember, no one speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers.
That's true. Thanks for all the tips. I feel much more motivated to practice now. I think I'll start with some shadowing exercises and try to find a language exchange partner online.
That sounds like a great plan, Raj. I'm sure you'll make amazing progress if you stick with it, and hey, we can always practice together too. Just let me know whenever you want to have an English conversation. Absolutely. Speaking in smaller, more supportive environments can help you get comfortable with the act of speaking itself without the added pressure of a formal audience. Groups like Toastmasters or even informal gatherings with friends can provide a safe space to practice and get feedback. Over time, as you get more comfortable speaking in these settings, you'll build the confidence to speak in larger, more formal situations. Remember that public speaking is not about performing perfectly. It's about connecting with your audience and conveying your message clearly. If you focus on sharing your ideas rather than being flawless, you'll find that the fear begins to fade away over time.
I'd love that. Thanks again for your support. I'll keep you updated on my progress.
You're welcome. And remember, it's all about consistent practice and staying patient with yourself. I know you'll do great. I hope you like this conversation. Please share and subscribe this channel. Thank you.